it is still rare in this country to celebrate our diverse voices, to celebrate the different kind of ways we can tell stories. It was very important to be part of this process and to enable it to happen in the best possible way.
What is Here Out West actually about?
It's a chapter film. There are 8 different stories told roughly over a chronological period of sort of a day and a night. Each story is different, but they're all bound together by a couple of things. The first thing is that they are all stories that come from Western Sydney and those communities. And secondly, at the beginning of the film, one of the characters, a grandmother, steals her granddaughter from a hospital, and that sets off a chain of events over the course of the day and night that we follow these characters.
Come on, bring the things.
Were the writers able to come on set much and, perhaps consult, particularly, with the stories being so unique to each writer?
We certainly engage with the writers in a lot of detail. That collaborative process with each writer meant making sure that we understood the cultural significance of what they were doing. And that was really important. In the case of Everything Changes, the writer of that chapter was Matthias Boller. He is of Chilean background. I managed to get him involved in sort of being a kind of unofficial director's attachment to me. So he was on set the whole time. And so, yeah, there was a lot of cross-fertilization in that sense.
How did you manage working on projects that had multiple languages?
It was challenging on 2 levels. It wasn't just the language, it was also a desire from everybody to cast within the cultures that we were representing. So the first thing is we were casting kind of real people from those backgrounds. We were unable largely to cast outside that. And that was a really wonderful challenge and I think a wonderful constraint. So in Everything Changes, the main character is a guy called Jorge in his late 40s, early 50s. I cast a non-actor for that role. And I know that most of the other directors ended up casting incredible people who had virtually either no experience or very little experience. And the second part of that was, in terms of language, we certainly faced some challenges. What that forces you to do as a director is to really kind of listen, on a different level. I ended up having to do some additional directing for Fadia on the musician. They were speaking Kurdish and Turkish. So you kind of listen as a director on another level, in terms of going, does that feel right? Are they hitting that dialogue in a way that feels right for this moment? So they were the 2 challenges. It wasn't just language, it was also, we were working primarily with non-actors.
Bakurdiu bakurti. Kaz lera juena datasazi.
With The Eternal Dance, there's a moment where the main character sings a Bengali song to her father, and there's this really subtle shift in the colour to a kind of red glow. Could you talk through that decision and choosing that particular kind of colour palette for that change?
The colour in the room we established is very warm. There was a kind of a really strong sense for me that because this room was effectively palliative care, it was not like a normal kind of sterile hospital room. And so we created in a lighting sense that sense of, Pratt lights that gave us this rich tone. And that also works with the Indian kind of aspect culturally of the story. The colour change that happened in the moment of death, if you like, or the moment of passing, was really about trying to create a transcendent moment where a kind of a sense of passing is happening through song, and that what Ashmita in that moment has achieved is being able to connect with her father, and her father, if you like, sensing that presence, and her sensing that he is now passing in a way that is meaningful and emotional to him.
Anando, che anando di baratrina ci muktina ci bando. Sitarangi.
The location for a number of the stories is in a hospital, which can be a really difficult location to film in. Where was the hospital location, and how did you get access to film there?
We were shooting during COVID in Sydney. Originally, there was one hospital that we were going to shoot so all the chapters were going to shoot in that particular hospital. And to cut a very long story short, a number of those ideas just kept falling through. It was a mad scramble, and in the end, it was a bit of a, to be honest, a patchwork. Some things were shot in a certain space, others were shot in a corridor that we were able to get that would vaguely match the wards. So it ended up being a bit of a grab bag of a number of locations, but actually, cleverly, it all worked.
And what do you hope that audiences take away from watching Here Out West?
First up, for people who are represented in those stories, I think for those communities, it's really, really critical, and I think quite joyous for them to finally see something where they are seen, where they are recognised, where they're seeing their voices and their faces on screen. That's really important. So that's a huge thing for those communities from Western Sydney. And I think audiences will, enjoy it, enjoy seeing what I think is quite unique. We don't generally make these sorts of films. And I think what's critical about Here Out West is that we need to see more of these sorts of films that really are coming from these diverse voices, these communities that quite frankly have a lot to say.